Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Magnetically Aligned Woman event. Walk into your power through self love, self worth, and authenticity. Today, I have a very special guest. Her name is Shirley Riga. She is a licensed instructor of Dr. Susan Jeffers' Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway workshops and classes in the United States. She's the author of two books focused on surviving and thriving while living with a loved one's chronic illness. An advocate for self care and a teacher of meditation, Shirley is a certified psychosynthesis counselor, a spiritual director, and a psychic medium. She works with clients and groups as a coach, a motivational teacher, and shares the process of finding empowerment through adversity. I'm so excited. Welcome, Shirley. Thank you for
Thank you.
being here.
Thank you, Nikki. It's a pleasure.
Now, one of the things that intrigued me was really like how your story came to be. Like, how did you transition into the work that you do now, and a little bit about your background working with um, your daughter with a chronic illness. Can you share some
Sure,
information?
sure. I didn't start out doing what I do now. I was married with, a daughter, and I had a baby after that. It was my second child, and she was born with two critically ill liver diseases. So, as a brand new baby, which I've never really gotten my head around. And so it that catapulted me into having to face some life and death decisions weeks after I had a baby. And we all deal with crisis in different ways. And so my then husband dealt with it by working more. And we had relatives taking care of my other daughter, and I was in the hospital pretty much quite a months with my newborn. Her two liver diseases were biliary atresia and congenital hepatic fibrosis. One, a fast degenerating fatal disease, and the other, a slow degenerating liver disease. And so that process started me on my path of taking care of myself. I got into therapy. I started working with professionals to help with my anxiety because, as you can imagine, the fear of a brand new baby dying just pushed me over the edge. At the same time, I'm still trying to parent my 2 year old and hold together a relationship that really didn't last. And in the process, through the years, because my daughter did not die right away, she actually survived the surgery that is pretty much a it's not a solution, it's a control of the problem. I don't have to go into the details of it, but it was major abdominal surgery at the age of 10 weeks of age. And I still remember going up in the elevator. I remember going up after surgery was over to see her in her little incubator with all the wires and stuff, and we were met on the elevator by a social worker who said to me and my then husband, "You have to treat her as normally as possible." And it's like, who are you and what are you talking about? It was so disorienting. It was the first step of understanding that a chronically ill child, it's a process for the whole family to go through. And it changed me. It absolutely changed me. I turned inward and became much more focused on helping myself, trying to deal. And in that process, I discovered a whole lot about myself. Um, and that's when I found, when she was about 7 or 8 years old, I found the book by Dr. Susan Jeffers, Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway, in a bookstore after my therapy appointment, because I was absolutely struggling how to maintain some sort of um, sanity in an incredibly insane situation. My daughter lived for 32 years. And so through that process, it was like my whole insides were turned outsides and I had to figure out how to survive. I went through a lot of situations with myself and with her. And my other daughter, of course, was very much affected. And I went through divorce because we really didn't hold it together under the stress. And I really had no idea who I was. And it was the book, Susan Jeffers' book, helped me deal with fear that I not only of what I was living through, but my childhood that I had never addressed with the issues that came up during those years through therapy. And I uncovered that I had been sexually abused. I hadn't even any idea. And I uncovered my complete lack of self-esteem and not knowing my direction in life. And so I had to really reinvent myself while surviving with taking care of being a caregiver for my daughter. And a lot of hard work that I'm feeling now is worth everything I went through, but it was very, very hard. So
Wow.
that's like a big nutshell of what happened. There's a whole lot of details of everything.
Thank you for sharing that. And the hardships that we go through, I find, a lot of times we don't expect these things. Like you never would have expected having a child with chronic illness.
Never.
Sometimes we encounter things in life that is just so unexpected, whether that's divorce, whether that's a death in the family, whether that is your whole business going down because of the economy, whatever that may be, and learning how to kind of cope with that and then re-emerge on the other side, not as constantly surviving, but how can we actually go from a state of surviving into a more empowered state of, listen, I cannot
Absolutely.
always be in this situation my whole life. Because I understand, like, when I went through I tried for years to figure out who I was as a person and my purpose in life, and being told that, you know, I'm worthless and that you're never going to get anywhere in life, and still striving and struggling to kind of like crawl out of the other end, like, I will prove you wrong, I will prove you wrong, I will prove you
Absolutely.
wrong, like, but at some point it was just so heartbreaking. It was like, maybe they're right. Maybe, whatever I'm trying so hard at for years, oh my God, for years. And that feeling of like hopelessness, that feeling of, wow, maybe I am worthless. Like, how do I get to the other side? Right.
Yeah.
And
It's
um,
a it is a journey, and one of the things, I mean, now I'm in a position of helping people. And the term that I have come to understand what happens in a catastrophe that lands on somebody's life, not even just one, it could be over and over again. It's incredible the situations that people find themselves in. That there's a process of breaking open this persona that we have, and then in the catastrophe breaks us open, and it brings us right back to the very essence of who we are. And we have to look at one has to look at what they need in order to help themselves. And I documented so many years by journaling and learned so much about myself as I looked back. And I mean, right now I am very much into spending time with myself in silence. And in that process, and it's taken me years to get there, I'm I'm hearing more and understanding more of who I am. But I have the luxury of doing that now because I am completely on the other side of all the catastrophe. And I have medical PTSD still from all the hospitalizations and being out of control with my daughter. And, I have triggers that I have to take care of. but I use a lot of the tools that I've developed over all the years, surviving one thing after another, that they were actual tools that I wrote about in a book I published to help other people surviving their breaking open circumstances to keep moving forward, to believe that they will get through it, because it's devastating and people think this is how it's going to be for the rest of their lives. But the big breaking open process, if I had understood that there is life beyond, it would have helped me. And anyway, so I can keep going and going on this because it is really, especially now with how we're living in this pandemic, there's so many catastrophes happening. And even if they aren't fatal or devastating, they shake people up to the core because of the uncertainty we live with day after day. And living in uncertainty is very, it rocks the ground we stand on, and it shakes up a lot of what we think we have control over or what we think keeps us safe. And it's very unsettling. And it's a it's an incredible privilege to be able to stand as a rock solid person, knowing that people can survive even though they don't think they can. That I have survived so much that I can hold that space for somebody and be with them in their screaming and banging on the walls, because it is terrifying to live through um, uncertainty or disaster of one type, or loss of a loved one, or a diagnosis of a terrible disease. It's terrifying, and I survived it. I survived the death of my daughter. I survived a chronic illness. I survived the loss of a spouse that I lost in a car accident. I survived it because there's more of me than I thought there was.
Thank you for sharing that. I
Yeah.
want to actually like dive a little bit into like what part of Feel the Fear and Do It Anyways spoke to you. Like um what made you realize there's something more out there, that I don't have to constantly live in the state of fear, that I can do something about it to take care of myself.
Well, I think the initial impact that the book had on me was the way it's written. Um, Dr. Susan Jeffers wrote it in such a way that I could relate to what she was writing. In fact, I cried with relief in the way that she described how she felt, or how other people she worked with felt, that I thought it was just me. And that's the way the whole book is written, is that she's talking right into my ear.
Mm,
And so that grabbed me right at first. And it helped me trust what she was saying in this is a situation that happened. And so let's look at it another way. And because part of the process of me overcoming things is learning new ways to deal with things, widening my view. So it's not only what I think the situation is, let's widen it to see how else we can look at it, change a perspective into more of a helpful perspective instead of a reactive perspective, which is what I grew up only doing in a dysfunctional household. So I didn't have tools, I didn't have models to give me ways of handling situations. Like decision making was a huge trigger for me because I always felt taken advantage of. And being able to problem solve, looking at um, ways of dealing with things outside the box of what I was used to. And it was hugely helpful. And before the pandemic hit, I was teaching groups of people the tools for feeling the fear and do it anyway. And it's an incredible experience working with, um, it's usually 40-year-olds up to 85-year-old people I have taught how, we think we know things based on what we know by our experience, but having someone introduce other ideas opens up the door to thinking beyond the confines of what we know. And so it's educating the mind. It's learning to calm our physical reactions, and they're all tools that we build to keep going forward, to keep growing. And it's an incredible process to just help somebody go through that process. So I don't know if that answered your question.
It does. It does. I because I think everyone feels fear, right? Like we all
Absolutely.
experience fear at some level, whether it is moving on in life, trying to, um, like ending a relationship or starting a new career, whatever that may look like, there is a level of fear because we are so comfortable as human beings in our own environment that the unknown can be scary. And the function of our brain is to keep us safe. So if we overthink, like, oh no, if I go and do this, like, I don't know what's going to happen, like, God forbid. And then we
Yep.
end up just stuck and we're stuck in the situation that maybe we're not happy with, or that we feel hopeless in.
Right.
So
It's
this
easy
leads
to
me,
get immobilized.
yeah.
It's easy to get immobilized. Yeah.
And when we've experienced so many of these circumstances, like over and over and over and over and over again, it's like, should I really try again? Because
Right.
who knows, like the possibility of that happening again, the fear of failure again.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah.
for you, like, I want to know, what does being aligned with yourself mean?
Being aligned with myself. Um, Answering it from this point of view of where I am now, I know how so very important it is that I be truthful with myself.
Mm,
Is one way because I don't want to feel the feelings about, some pain of it. So it's so important for me, one, to be truthful with myself, to speak. Um, I have standards of how I treat people. And I realized in the past that I didn't hold up those standards when I spoke to myself inside, when my chatterbox talked to me. I was my own bully. I was my own, putting myself down, ridiculing myself. And when I started, when I realized, and this is one of the things that the book helped me do, when I realized how negative my self talk was, I was talking myself into corners. I was talking myself into being small. I was reinforcing my fear because I didn't think I could do it or I wouldn't be safe. And as I became aware of my self talk, I started changing my relationship with myself. And that was a huge, huge change. And it has taken years. It was just within the past 4 years that I realized I was still bullying myself about things. I should do this because I'm doing this, and I wrote a book, and I have clients and stuff, so I should be doing this. And why aren't you doing this? And I was intimidating myself, and I caught myself, and I was aghast that I was doing it to me. You know, yeah. So that is, I can't even remember the question now, but awareness is a huge thing. And it's a huge step in any process in helping oneself. Since then, I have been, discovering and reinforced and validated over and over again that the relationship that I have with myself aligns me with having a right relationship with others in the world. And if I treat myself poorly, more than likely I'm going to go out in the world and not be aligned. with the rest of the world because I am battling within. And so being aligned is so important with a right relationship with oneself.
Oh my goodness, excuse me.
Okay.
I find like that your response of alignment is so in touch um, with authenticity in general, and just finding out who you are, what you want, and then be and moving in the direction um, of facing that possibility of like, yes, this is who I am, this is what I deserve. Also being truthful of, maybe I'm not, maybe I am telling myself all these things and pushing yourself into a corner and saying, I refuse to do that anymore. Like, I don't want to do that anymore. In your journey of, you know, overcoming fear, finding who you are, and having like all these expectations of yourself and breaking those down, what was the top three things that you realized that you had to practice every day to get there?
Well, when you use the term overcoming fear, I still have fear because I'm human. And so, what I have now, though, is a vast tool belt of things I can do to deal with what fear comes up, or, how sometimes things come in the back door and I don't realize why I'm not doing something, except when I sit down with it, I realize I'm afraid. And so I still deal with fear, of course. Um, so I think getting to know myself and being gentle with myself as I negotiate the fears I come up with is a huge tool for me that I'm not allowed to beat myself up. I'm
Mhm.
not, not literally, figuratively. I'm not allowed to do that because it just, I hide. I go into hiding and I become more of my scared child. And it's not that I never do that anymore. Triggers happen and I feel myself reacting, but I am more aligned with the adult that's going to come with the tools to help me come back out. Um, that's important. And I also think it's so important to believe that when I feel lost on my path, that I will find my way back. Because even being lost is not a waste of time, because no matter what experience I put myself in, I learn something from it. I always am learning. And it may be a painful learning, but I'll sure know that I'm not ever going to repeat that experience again and just keep going. Instead, what I used to do is if I had a bad experience, I would just be mortified by it and then talk myself into how bad I was and repeat that over and over, and then be like on my own back about watching everything I do so I don't ever do that again. And it was like torturous. And
Mm.
I'm very familiar with that scenario, and it's amazing how many people I talk to that do that. And and so I don't allow myself to do that anymore either. And I catch myself when I do. It depends on how strong the trigger is, because we're living in a world where things happen, you know. And probably, what's the third thing? Am I answering your questions? Because I can't even remember the question now. I get going on these paths. Um,
Yeah, so
so,
how like the top three things to help you kind of, I guess, since you said it's not overcoming fear, since you experience fear every day, and I think like we all do, but the top three things to help you manage your fear so that we can
yeah,
find empowerment.
I mean, I've had people refer to me as an expert on dealing with fear. And it's almost comical because I still deal with fear. It's part of life.
It's honestly, it's impossible. Like I still go through it. Like everybody still goes through it because when we're leveling up in life, like life presents another obstacle that you have to be like, okay, well, I beat this level. Now I have to beat the next level and the next level. It just keeps happening. So
Yeah.
I'll
I,
recap the first two that you.
I do have it now. I do.
Oh yeah, okay,
And
okay.
that is, it's so important for me not to compare my insides to somebody else's outsides, because it is so easy to start looking and say, wow, they have it together. Oh, look at that family. They're a nice family. They, and every time I do that, I call it putting myself in the audience. My eyes are out there looking at them and then judging me. So I'm in the audience looking at me going, not okay. Because you don't look like her. You don't act like that person. It is a no-win situation. And if I can catch myself doing that, I gently say, okay, I'm not in the audience anymore. I can see my feet. This is as far as I am as I touch my nose. This is what I pay attention to. That is a really, really helpful tool for me.
Wow.
And I put movement with it so that I feel it. I feel my feet grounded in my shoes on the floor. I feel my nose. This is as far as I, I am. Get myself out of the audience. So yeah, three things.
The last one is very powerful because we tend to, I even do this too. And I find that like so many people I've spoken to, even though like we may not be on the same path, it's so easy to kind of say like, oh, she's a model, like she's a famous person, like she must have her life together. She has all this money, and she's a celebrity. She must be so happy. And then you compare that to yourself, and you're like, well, first of all, I don't even want to be a celebrity. Like I don't want to be famous. So why am I
Yeah.
comparing myself to somebody at that standard? And then get so caught up in I'm not where I want to be in life. I'm not even nearly close to reaching my dreams. And then that negative self talk kind of comes back, and you have all these expectations that
Yeah.
weren't even yours in the first place.
And each time that happens, you just get a little quieter and a little quieter and kind of receding away. And all of a sudden, it's the little kid is present. Yeah, it's hard. So it's great to have a reminder of that. I often talk because I do a daily talk in my meditation practice with a crowd of people on Zoom every day. And that is often stay out of the audience because it is not fun. Not fun.
Can you share? I'm curious. Can you share a little bit about like what you do during meditation, like how you walk through that process?
Sure. I read somewhere that somebody posted the other day that if you breathe, you can meditate. And I was brought up that meditation requires a certain position with a certain breath in your certain hands and a certain time and straight spine and all this stuff. And I have discovered that the only rule in meditation is to just sit quietly with yourself in whatever position you want to. Um, it's been over a year now that I have been practicing with the public 15 minutes of silence a day. And in that silence, I'm not playing any video games. I do give myself permission to listen to guided meditation that puts me in a place of comfort. But other than that, I don't have to have my eyes shut. It's just silent or, you know, introspective time. And that's my meditation per day.
Mm.
Sometimes I do it more than once, but I'm committed doing it with a Zoom community every day for 15 minutes. And it has, I mean, I was connected before with, a higher power and connected with energies and all that represents love and light. I have that gift and I'm so grateful for it. But I've been deepening day after day in just setting aside time to hear my own thoughts, to listen to my breath, um, to becoming my own friend. And to me, that's what meditation is. And it's a discipline that's easier to do when it's done with people around. And the pandemic has created the perfect opportunity to do it in our own home, just sitting in a comfortable place. And so I have a large community that joins me every morning. It's amazing. And so to me, that's what meditation is. And I have found that as I practice this, what is emerging is the presence of the wisdom of me being with me. If I can, it's hard to find words to these things, but there is the human me that, is kind of like the bouncing ball, thinking about this, got to do this, stuff. But as I sit with myself, what is emerging is, I don't know if it's my soul or my higher self, but there is this wisdom part of me that is calm, compassionate, welcoming, caring, and I am aware of her presence. It's amazing. So
That is beautiful. And I want to kind of like tie everything together from my own perspective of what I've heard from what you shared is how we are presented with certain challenges in life. And those challenges are here to kind of teach us. It's a way to teach us how we can better empower ourselves, even through these difficult challenges, to
absolutely,
create the life that we want to live. And no matter what comes our way, fear is always going to be there.
yeah,
It's always going to be there. So the importance of being kind to yourself, not comparing, and really holding space, whether that's through meditation, through self-care,
right,
um,
right.
and reconnecting back to really who you are as a person instead of letting that mind chatter overwhelm you and keep you in that state of fear.
Absolutely. Well said. All well said. Yeah, Susan Jeffers terms it the chatterbox.
Oh, trust
And
me, chatterbox is it's like it goes on for me 24 hours a day. I'm like, oh my God, what is she gonna think of me? What am I gonna do today?
okay, it just never shuts up. Absolutely. Absolutely. And every person that walks this earth, they have a chatterbox. They may look normal, they may look calm and serene, but they're human.
Mm.
It's going. It might be, focused on one thing, but it's going. So yeah.
Thank you for sharing with us, Shirley. And I know you have something special for the audience, and I know you also have a book that you came out with that you'd love to share with us as well. So the platform is open for you.
Sure, sure. Well, my special gift is it is a list of 8 stress or anxiety relieving tools. And if you go onto my website, www.shirleyriga.com, you get a free download in it. And these are actual activities that can be done that give instant relief to anxiety or panic or stress. It's things that I have done throughout my life once I discovered them. One of them and I'll just say it very briefly, is that when I am feeling particularly nervous and I am out in public, I used to have a lot of panic attacks, and a technique to keep the mind calm is passing an object from one hand. I happen to have a purple Buddha, but in my teaching, I pass out a coin, but just holding an object and just kind of fiddling, but passing it from one hand to the other. Nobody has to pay attention to anything. It is a calming to the mind. It's very much like using both sides of the brain, use knitting and something, a paper clip, a pen, a barrette, whatever, just passing it one hand to the other while once you recognize that there's stress. it gives an immediate calming effect. And it's a tool that is helpful for somebody when they recognize, oh my gosh, my breathing is, I can feel my breathing, and this is really a scary thing. Um, there's other techniques like that, square breathing and self massage, and in places that are helpful to induce a calming feeling. I had to use all those in dealing with my life, and they have become tools for me that I absolutely believe in. So that's a free gift for people, because dealing with anxiety these days is a daily activity, most
Thank
important.
you. Yeah, I can relate. Even like I used to have daily anxiety like every single day. And one of the things that really helped was having a container of space like you do in your meditation to kind of self-soothe and really taking that space instead of the hustle and bustle of life of, oh my God, I have to get up and I have to do all these things.
Oh, yeah.
Taking a step back. So thank you for sharing that because I actually want to check out these techniques and implement them.
Yeah, yeah, I absolutely have used them. The other thing I wanted to say is, through all my journaling, through the caretaking that I did, I wrote a book, and the title of the book is Tools for the Exceptional Parent of a Chronically Ill Child. But what I found out as people read this book is it is a book for caregivers to be reminded how to take care of themselves, how to self-soothe themselves, as they are in the throes of the daily activity of what it takes to care for a chronically ill loved one. And so I wrote that book, and then I wrote a workbook to go with it, just to help people, um, kind of walk through scenarios, and they could write about it and explore some of the tools that are in it. But that book is full of tools too, very much like a lot of tools that I have on that stress relieving techniques.
And
So
they can find this book on your website. Can you state your website for us?
yes, it's shirleyriga.com.
Amazing. And for everybody who is watching, I will link the freebie as always just below the video so that you guys can take advantage. Um, as we're wrapping up today, I just wanted to thank you, Shirley, for being here, sharing your experience, your wonderful positive energy with us. And for everybody else watching, I will see you guys on the next episode.
Thank you, Nikki. Thank for what you're doing. Most
Thank you.
appreciated. Okay, bye bye.
Bye.